We have Israel. There's, I think, a motion in the parliament to dissolve the Knesset. Big pressure on Netanyahu there. There's also Iran. The phone call that Trump and Netanyahu had, N12 Israeli media, they reported this quote from Donald Trump. "I want you to end the war," he reportedly said. "It's not just the Wickoff deal that could be reached. It's both." That means Gaza and Iran. "Finish it. The war is exhausting itself. Ending this war will help in negotiations with Iran and also the Saudis," saying that Israel needs to take the attack off the table. This is what Mr. Eric Kurilla, the CENTCOM commander, had to say.
If the president directed, is CENTCOM prepared to respond with overwhelming force to prevent a nuclear-armed Iran?
I have provided the Secretary of Defense and the President a wide range of options.
I take that as a yes.
Yes.
Talk about what's happening here, not only in relation to Israel, but this broader back and forth that we've been seeing with Iran and the United States.
I mean, the first thing that because I was in Iran for a week, about 2 weeks ago, and so I talk quite widely with people. Generally, the sense is they don't know whether there will be a deal or not. They're very skeptical because they feel actually that the Americans don't really know what they want. Their conditions, their terms are always changing. Witkoff says one thing, they come back with another thing. So they're not sure whether they are. But the view generally, and widely held, is that even if there's no deal, we'll take the risk. We'll accept the risk of that. Because a deal today would not bring as much benefit to the Iranians as many people think. Because so much of, if you like, what were sanctions under the JCPOA have changed. For example, if you like, the central bank that was originally sanctioned pre-2015 and also the National Oil Company are now no longer sanctioned in the JCPOA context of enrichment of uranium, but are sanctioned for supporting Palestinians. And then we have CATSA, another range of sanctions that have imposed since. And since that time, the lobby have been promoting bills that would mean that any deal would have to be approved by Congress, and the Congress would have the ability to cancel it on a 2/3 majority. So when you look at it, I mean, would there be a big change? Would there be a huge lifting of sanctions? Well, you know, that wasn't the experience first time round with the JCPOA, rather the opposite. And also, it wasn't just the actual sanctions, it was the informal sanctions. When Trump took the US out of the deal, it was supposed to be that Europe could continue to do business under the JCPOA with Iran. But it didn't happen. Why? And I went, at the time, went to the banks and asked what was going on in London. And I went to have lunch at the board or something, and they said, "Listen, Alastair, you know, just last week, we had a representative of the US Treasury sitting here, where you're sitting here, and he made it quite clear. He said, listen, look, you probably noticed that a number of European banks have received really hefty fines for money laundering or lack of due diligence." He said, "Don't deal with Iran. Best not to deal with Iran." And they didn't. So, I mean, it wasn't just the formal sanctions. It was the question of the whole relationship. So there is, getting back to your question, there is a sort of sense of, you know, it's going to be much more difficult to get something. And Iran will not give up the right to enrichment. It's included in the NPT. The NPT, the Nuclear Proliferation Treaty, does not say a limit of enrichment. That is not included in it. You can enrich up to 99% under the NPT. It doesn't say you mustn't. They are intending to do this. All of the proposals that are coming from the Americans are quite dubious. That they're suggesting that there would be perhaps a consortium established that would provide enrichment initially in Iran, and this consortium, as the consortium comes into being, Iranian infrastructure would be destroyed, and then the consortium would fade away and would not be in Iran and would be gone. In other words, Iran would be like it has been for some time, with no source of uranium to run. This was the case with the medical reactor at Tehran, the research reactor, which is used mostly for producing medical isotopes and medicines and things. It's very important and very widely used nuclear processes in medicine. And some years ago, they ran out of 20%. 20% is miles away from a weapon of any sort. But they ran out of 20% enrichment. And what happened? They found buyers. They found people willing to sell it to Iran. And America said, no, you can't have it. So they know that if they lose on site, if you like, inside Iran enrichment, America at any time can just say, oh, we'll just turn off the tap. We don't like what you're doing. We'll turn off the tap. And your industry and everything that's dependent on nuclear energy will close down.
On the one hand, you have Israel, of course, continuing its onslaught in Gaza. You have the Gaza flotilla incident. But you also have a situation where Trump seemingly is being leaked out to be pressuring Netanyahu to end the carnage and the genocide in Gaza. But at the same time, and we've almost been here before earlier in his administration. So what do you make about the implications for Israel as well as the regional situation as the U.S.-Iran talks continue?
Well, the first thing to understand, and this is not controversial or can really be countered, is that Israel is not capable of in any substantive way attacking Iran, certainly not its nuclear facilities. I just want to say that even the deepest bunker buster bombs that the US has, the GU-57s, can only reach down to 66 meters in depth. Even the latest nuclear weapons cannot get beyond 500 meters. And they would have to be flown by a B-2 and only 2 bombs per aircraft. And the Iranian nuclear facilities are half a mile deep underneath a mountain, i.e. at least 800 meters and more down, and not even a single shaft. It goes down, it goes one way, it goes another way. They are not able to destroy those. Neither Israel nor the United States is likely to be able to destroy those. It would take something like 200 nuclear bombs to get down to that depth inside a mountain. All the centrifuges are mounted on earthquake-resistant, absorbent chassis so that they can even tolerate large explosions taking place, or I can't remember what level on the Richter scale, but a high level of, if you like, earthquakes there. So they can't do that. So what's going on really is that Netanyahu is desperate. You rightly say the situation in Israel is really almost poised on internal civil violence, because they see half the population, if you like, the more westernized, Europeanized population of Israel, regard a coup as underway. The part of the right, what they call the Messianic right, is staging a coup. They are quietly changing the political situation in Gaza. Smotrich is annexing quietly the whole of the West Bank, and Ben-Gvir is changing all the rules on the Temple Mount, the Haram al-Sharif, Al-Aqsa, allowing more and more, if you like, settlers to come onto it, preparing for the sacrifice. So there is a big changes taking place, and this is causing a great deal of controversy and I mean the violence is intense. The police attack, the families demanding the hostages back. As if they were Palestinians. They're really vicious towards them. And there is this feeling that Netanyahu just is not obeying any of the laws. He's got rid of the head of Shin Bet, Ronan Bar. He has also now in the process of firing the AG, although the Attorney General, although she says she's not going. and nothing happens. And he progresses in this. He's ill. He has a pacemaker for his heart. He's had various operations. He's deeply unwell. He has to stop his court appearances regularly, has 2 doctors in attendance most of the time. And he's desperate. He needs something to get out of this process. It's open secret in Israel that Gaza is a failure and is unlikely to change. They just see this as a sort of waste of, young Israeli lives. I mean, I don't think we have to spend too much sympathy on that, because those young Israelis are also killing Palestinians and killing Palestinian children. So it's, this is war, and this is what they brought it to. But there is a deepening resentment and a sense of questioning, well, what is Israel? What does it stand for? How are we going to get out of this mess? It's a huge mess. And the tensions from that are really rocking the whole foundations of the state. Will Netanyahu survive till the recess, the summer recess in the Knesset? I don't know. It's very much in the balance, because the Haredi, that is the Orthodox Jews, are threatening to pull out of the government unless they get a bill through that removes their obligation to military service. They won't fight in Gaza. And the Ashkenazi, if you like, the Europeanized, more secular Jews say, well, why do we have to send our boys and girls to be killed in Gaza? If you people won't do it, instead you go to and study the Torah all the time rather than fight for the country. So it's a bitter situation there. So it is coming apart. It is definitely coming apart. The answer is what will be the consequences? I don't know. It's a new situation. In the whole region is sort of teetering on the brink of some sort of explosion, one way or another, whether it comes in Iran or the consequences from Iran. What is Trump going to do? I mean, he's in a predicament, isn't he? I mean, he said, oh, I'm going to do a deal with Iran, and he's not going to get a deal. He's not going to get a deal that says zero enrichment. And we will go, as Trump said in his last statement, we'll go wherever we want, we'll take whatever we want, we'll blow up whatever we want, we'll go into the laboratories and blow those up too, and we'll remove whatever we don't like there. That's not going to happen. So, what's he going to do next? When I was in Iran, and I'll sort of leave you with this thought on it, many Iranians, serious senior Iranians, but some of them said to me look, there will be a deal or there won't be a deal, and if there is no deal, there may not be military consequences. And that was quite interesting. They said, no, because, they can't attack our nuclear. Look at the changes we've done in our missile program, the air defenses, which we had, last year and have been upgraded and augmented during this period. No, they can't, because also they know what will happen. And then suddenly into this equation, we have this new fact of Iran saying that they have acquired, not just recently, but over time, they've acquired a huge trove of intelligence on Israel's nuclear program in full detail. So they know they say, I can't tell you if it's true, but they say they know all of the Israeli nuclear sites, their secret sites. And I suspect that perhaps Netanyahu and maybe some of the senior commanders in Israel are having to have they're wringing their hands and wondering what we're going to do, because, we could risk complete obliteration if Iran really has the sort of intelligence on us.
Israel right now also is bombing Yemen. I believe they just bombed the Hodeidah port. What a lot of people wonder about, given how Israel's behaving, of course, the U.S. is seemingly just total support. What do you see happening in all of these various points? You have Israel, a genocidal war in Gaza, Yemen, of course, continuing to take a stand for Gaza and Israel contending with that. And then this question of Iran, and also Israel is expanding into Syria. It seems like a big mess. Could you just summarize what you feel like is the overall trajectory here?
Yes. Well, very briefly, in Gaza, you know that Hamas released this American-Israeli hostage and understood from the American side that would result in supplies being provided to Gaza, relief coming into Gaza. It didn't happen. Then there was an agreement and a proposal. It was negotiated some time ago for release of hostages and end to war. The Americans backed down on that. And they've opted to take Netanyahu's position on this and said, no, it'll just be a temporary ceasefire. No, it won't be permanent. It won't be an end to war as you want, and we'll have to renegotiate all the other aspects of it. Meanwhile, the Palestinians there are being pushed further and further into a tiny borderline enclosure from which no doubt they will be driven out of Gaza and onto some other location. In other words, ethnically cleansed. When you look at Russia, well, I've already said to you, where are the signs? Why do we not see any signs? Why isn't there a resumption of direct flights? Why isn't there some sort of incremental process towards a normalization of relations with Russia? Why do we see the same thing happening with China? The times come together, and then suddenly, after agreement is done, America puts new restrictions on tech products. And China says, okay, well, you won't get our raw earths. All of these things are not progressing. All of these things are coming to, at the moment, unless there's a big change, a bad end. And this is going to feed through and bleed into the, if you like, the distrust on the financial side, the one that's so important to Trump, which is to be able to maintain the dollar trading hegemony. He said that innumerable times. Yes, we want to do this, but we don't want to lose the primacy of the dollar in this period. And so I think, where is this all leading? It's leading to probably an erosion of this project. And it's urgent because the financial situation, it will not just be kept, at bay for long. As I said, every auction of American debt is fraught with some uncertainty, and everyone understands something must be done. But if interest rates start going up, then the stock market is going to start going down, and then there'll be squeals. Many, painful squeals coming out of holders of people with pensions and others in America saying, look, this isn't, what's going on? And now, of course, we have Los Angeles. So, I mean, it's is he able to take it forward? This is the big question. This is the big question that I have been, asking. Is he really? Does he have the power? I mean, we've heard all of these, the blustering and the threats that Russians are. But really, does he have the political base? Does he have the political weight actually to say something and mean it and do it and convince Putin and Xi and the Iranians that he does have the ability to change the paradigm?
No, I think the word here is confidence. There is a huge erosion of confidence, especially in U.S. leadership, for whatever that is and however it is defined. It's declining by the day.